FC Talk, Season 2, Episode 2, The Big Switch and Vertigo, Part 1, Introduction. Ciao and welcome to the second episode of the second season of FC Talk, the Francesco Coppola podcast about his photographic vision and the situation of photography, related to the AI menace and other image culture topics. This March episode will delve into a first topic, the decadence of Microsoft Windows operating system and Adobe Creative Cloud apps, and why I am making a practical, well-cadenced move to switch from those products to a Linux-based system using community-produced OS and creative applications. The second topic will open a new format, Vertigo, which will introduce you to my personal conflicted feelings about the situation I am living right now. Things seem to be starting to go in the right direction, but can I trust the optimism I am beginning to feel? Past experiences went terribly wrong. Could this time be any different? I will end the episode with a brief what's next section. Let's get into it. Topic 1, the inglorious crash dive taken by Microsoft and the end of personal computing and the threat to your privacy, Constant, and why I have identified the Linux ecosystem as the best alternative to protect my business model, and how I plan to tackle the transition. I don't know if you follow technology channels on YouTube or not, but I'll assume it's better to bring everyone up to speed with a quick summary by arbitrarily declaring Windows 10 unsupported and stating that if you don't have a TPM chip on your PC, you should replace it even if it's perfectly working, and install Windows 11 by requiring you to connect your new PC to a Microsoft account with no offline option allowed, by seasoning this new OS with advertising, by collecting what people do on their computers through their Recall application, by pushing OneDrive for file storage and Copilot AI. Microsoft shot itself in the foot, and badly, so badly that millions of PC users are still on Windows 10 with serious doubts about upgrading to 11. Now, the first leaks about Windows 12 have produced a nuclear reaction in the tech enthusiast world. What is so bad about what could be the 12th version of Windows? Well, what until now was optional will become mandatory. Windows 12 will transform your PC into a slow, sluggish machine weighed down by constant surveillance of everything you do on what Microsoft now calls an agentic PC. A nightmarish perspective for privacy and for all businesses like mine that work by strictly controlling where our products are and when and how they are visible on the internet. I can easily imagine that the vast majority of creative businesses are in the same situation, even if sure, in the creative professional world, the standard is Apple, but Apple is only more subtle in this AI-centric revolution. Don't feel too safe just because you pay the Apple tax. That comfort won't last long. To this already dire situation, add the decisions being made by Adobe, a company that has already entered an era of declarations like, "We will not use your images to train our AI model." Yeah, trust me, bro. It appears that Adobe's plans include stripping away the option to store files edited in any Adobe application locally on your PC. You will be forced to store them on their servers. Combined with their existing rental policy, which has already made many creatives frustrated or outright angry, this trend amounts to a death sentence. And delivered at the worst possible time, because if you miss the correct window to unsubscribe from their service, you will be forced to pay a fee for the privilege of freeing yourself from their grasp. So, given all of this, what can one do with their own hardware and the files produced by their own skills and intellect? One option is biting the apple and switching to their operating system using applications that Adobe has never touched. It's feasible, at least for now, but you know as well as I do, the Apple tax is not for broke, promising new talents who have yet to prove their worth to the market. The only real alternative, one that doesn't harass you with advertising, doesn't run malware that steals your data, and can breathe new life into old PCs that Windows has condemned to the dump, is a Linux distribution. I am well aware that choosing the wrong Linux distro can cause problems, and for my business, I need something that simply works. But I also know that there are simplified Linux-based operating systems built specifically for people like us. People coming from Windows who have never touched a terminal. I am not saying I am migrating right now. Currently, I'm running Windows 10 on extended support, which I can use until October 13th. In the meantime, I will use my old Dell Inspiron 7000, revived with a Linux Mint distribution, to study the OS and get comfortable with that environment. Rest assured, from the moment I make the switch, I will not touch any Microsoft or Adobe product. Topic 2, Vertigo Part 1. A conflicted feeling about where my artistic business is going and whether I can trust it. I find myself lately going out on my usual day-to-day errands for the house or for my mother, strolling around the town I live in, watching with new interest the cars on the street, the apartment buildings I would normally ignore, with a trembling question forming in my mind. Will I ever be able to afford that car? To buy an apartment in that building? It's a common feeling for a 20-something, I know, not for someone who has crossed the threshold of 50 springs. But my life has always run late. I was born over a week past my due date on a late spring night. I found what appeared to be love and finally addressed a badly treated medical condition only at 29. I graduated in history at 35. Being late is something of a personal karma. In the past, there were moments of encouragement that turned out to be fool's gold. Emergency jobs taken out of necessity after my father's Alzheimer diagnosis. Years spent writing for free for the most visited Italian web magazine about fantasy literature, films, and games. You're good at what you write. You're right. I'll follow your career. Phrases that in the end led nowhere. To be fair, I'm talking about the Italian publishing industry between roughly 2005 and 2014, field that was committing a slow but decisive harakiri under the ruling idea that everything is sellable and there is no difference between a book and a bottle of tomato sauce. The Berlusconi-era cultural poisoning that devastated the publishing world and sent Italian readership plummeting from around 50% in 2010 to the 30s today. While the rest of Europe maintains a majority of people who read regularly. Art photography is an entirely different business. And yes, the Italian art scene is pretty much dead, like most of the cultural sector there. But the beauty of photography is that it is a language without frontiers. Reaching art collectors across the world is not impossible in these days of global internet connectivity. It is not a coincidence that following a positive consultancy with art coach Stefania Monopoli, I launched a profile on Saatchi art. My English isn't perfect, but it's fluent enough to be understood, and the art world, art photography included, is growing in the USA, the UK, France, Switzerland, Austria, and other nations that, not coincidentally, are not Italy. What I could not do back in 2011 or 2012 was reach an international audience. Now I can. And that could make all the difference. Can the rest of the world take notice of me? Be interested in my themes and my imagery? This is the challenge I am taking on. And a positive response from someone like Stefania Monopoli, a collector and art coach with a decade of experience, trained at the Sotheby's Institute of Art, carries a very different weight than encouragement from a fellow aspiring writer or an editorial chief who needed you motivated enough to keep producing content indefinitely for free. And so I find myself wondering whether at last With everything I want to express through my images and my words, I can escape misery. Afford a decent life, pay my bills, own an ecologically sustainable car, finance my photography without family help. Maybe travel and get to know art enthusiasts in the scenes that are still alive and kicking around the world. Because after everything I have lived through, walking around the periphery of Milan and looking at the concrete reality surrounding me gives me a sense of vertigo. We shall see in the coming episodes whether that vertigo grows and in which direction. Stay tuned. What's next? And finally, let's close this episode with a look at what is happening or about to happen over the coming month. First and foremost, I will continue uploading images to my Seachi art account, and I will stay otherwise quiet about it until I reach around 25 images. Once I get there, with all the keywords, descriptions, and supporting data each image requires, I will make an official announcement across my social profiles with a little advertising behind it too. This morning I had a new shooting and others will follow, always searching for meaning, emotion, and technical growth too, of course. I will increase my effort to provide content across all 3 tiers of my Patreon account. With nearly 25 followers and 5 paying members, I feel it's time to push harder and add more creative material. And finally, I will continue looking for opportunities to be interviewed, published in art magazines, or exhibited in offline galleries. The effort continues, as you can see, and I hope to let my vertigo grow more and more until I can take off, spread my wings, and reach the economic freedom I have waited for so long. Shine on, per aspera ad astra.